I got to sit next to and ask questions to the CEO and founder of the sleep company Emma, whose company made almost $1 billion in revenue in 1 year. I was also fortunate to have lunch with the founder and CEO of the company Renew, whose company collected around 600 million euros in capital from a leading investment bank, a private equity firm, a venture capital firm. And I was also fortunate to party with two of Germany's, yeah, I would say, most famous entrepreneurs, at least to the young generation. And today I want to talk about how a very good university is actually opening up opportunities like that. Yeah. And how you can create those through attending a very good university. So I remember close to graduation, maybe like 8 to 10 months before graduating, one of my closest friends at that time asked me what actually my plans were after the graduation, and I remember that I basically did not have a clue. It was even very difficult to answer because I was just kind of shocked by the question. And he by himself suggested, maybe you'll study business remotely at some university in Hamburg, my hometown. And I remember saying something like, yes, yeah, probably doesn't sound that bad. And looking back at this, I'm actually horrified. Horrified by my starting point and also the plans I had and the scale of those plans. Yeah? Fast forward around 3 years, I got admitted to one of Germany's leading universities for business, which is ranked 33rd worldwide by the Times Higher Education ranking in the year 2026. And I studied with around 400 of Germany's best graduates from Germany, as I said, but also from other countries actually. And the interesting thing about this is that usually the best graduates are like 5 to 6 people in the whole year, yeah. And my entire year at university basically consisted of those kind of people who were like the 5, 6, 7 people, um, 7 best graduates at 1 year in school. And fast forward 4 years from my admission, I graduated from this university alongside people who deeply inspired me, and I came back to my hometown, and but I came back changed. I changed forever. And today I want to talk about how exactly I changed and why I believe that going through this kind of change, as I did, is especially beneficial for someone who is very ambitious. So let's get right. Let's get right into it. So honestly, I did not know what I was capable of, and lightly, I don't even know what I'm capable of right now. But um, in high school, I wasn't. I did not know at all where my capabilities are. And likely you've heard of the book "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins, who tells the story of becoming a Navy SEAL and having quite a terrible starting point in life, childhood trauma, obesity, and yeah, many other things that were on his way. And in this book, he shows what you can become capable of when you take control over your mind and you, as he calls it, callous it. Yeah. Um, and callousing your mind means expanding who you are and becoming stronger and more capable, yeah, than you initially thought you could. By the way, if you haven't read the book, definitely buy yourself a copy, read it, execute the advice. It's a very good book. And in school, the interesting thing is in school that nobody really forces you to get out of your comfort zone and to work hard. Yeah, it is basically up to you. You decide how much effort you put in, um, whether you want to be exceptional, whether you want to be have average grades. It's all up to you. Yeah, and even with bad grades, yeah, or above average grades, you will still pass and move on. Yeah, at least in most cases. And at a very good university, this basically changes because you have the very good grades, you have the average grades, and then you have a cutoff. Yeah, after a certain grade, yeah, you did not pass the exam, and what this means is that you have to reset it. Yeah, you have to reset it, and if you fail the reset, at least at my university, you get thrown out. The only exception to this is if you are in the third semester, I think, and you'll get a joker, which you can use once in or after the third semester, and you use it if you fail twice. You can use a joker to reset a third time. But if you have used the joker, for example, and then fail 2 times, you get thrown out. And as well as during the first 2 semesters, if you fail twice, you get thrown out. And this is a very important fact because even passing at a very good university is difficult. Yeah, I had to put in a lot of effort to just pass. Yeah, and this is this is basically the difference when your capabilities are getting expanded a lot. This is what happened to me. Yeah, what I always tell myself about this. So I had quite good grades finishing high school, but by far not excellent and top grades, especially if I compare myself with my co-students. And they were putting effort in and learning how to learn, likely for years, yeah, before attending this very good university. And I worked in a startup for 2 years after high school and did not even have good grades did not even have very good grades in high school myself. So when I joined this very good university, it was like me going occasionally for runs, but now joining Olympia competitions. This was how I felt, and this is why I had to put in a lot of effort into basically each subject that we had, and thus I had to expand my ability to put in serious effort towards a goal, to learn complex material, to handle high pressure, to handle hundreds of things that needed to get done, and handle, basically manage my time properly, and also handling failure, because there were exams where I put in a lot of effort, like my first law exam, and I still failed it. Yeah, and this is very frustrating. Or exams where you put in a lot of effort and you still write a bad grade. This is very frustrating. And my abilities were expanded through all these experiences at the top university, all these abilities I have just listed out. Yeah, and this was a huge personal transformation, and that showed me I did not even know what I was capable of, and I'm capable of so much more, and you gain confidence from these experiences, and you can use those experiences to fuel other difficult experiences, because David Goggins, for example, in this book speaks about the cookie jar. Yeah, this is like a way to callous your mind when you think to give up, when you think you can do more, to remember your successes and remember how much you have already done. And this fuels you, which it really does, with more energy to actually accomplish more. Yeah, so this is the first point what what a very good university gives you. Another thing is the social default. So I have already spoken about the social default in another video. I think it was the video on my main regret about high school. Definitely watch this video. It's very I think you can learn a lot there. And what the social default basically is about, it is that we tend to do what everybody else does when we are in a social setting. So, for example, your friends, you're in a social setting and all of your friends decide to go to McDonald's. Likely, you will also join them and eat something at McDonald's, even though you didn't plan to do that. Yeah, and if you're interested in more on the defaults that we humans have, check out the book Clear Thinking by Shane Parrish. There's a way deeper dive on each of the defaults. But So this is the social default, and it is basically a double-edged sword. Yeah, in a bad environment, so with people who aren't like good for you, you are more likely to replicate bad behavior. And on the other hand, in a good environment, you are more likely to replicate better behavior. Yeah. And the social default also applies to, I would say, the goals that we are set for, that we set for ourselves. Yeah. So if everyone around you, for example, sets goals on a certain scale, let's say just basic goals, we are likely to adopt a similar scale. Yeah. Everybody just wants to become a teacher or a doctor or an engineer and work in a safe job. Likely, this may also transfer to you. Yeah. And in a normal school environment, the scale of people's goals is often quite basic. And basically, from my whole year, I don't know anyone who had quite ambitious goals, I'll be honest. There were people like my close friends who we all wanted to get rich, we all wanted to have a lot of money and live a crazy lifestyle, but we did not have any like clear goals in regard of moving towards achieving that. Yeah, and if I look at the guys right now, no one of them is doing anything really ambitious. So and I would say this scale, yeah, of the goals the people around me were setting or ambitions they were having or weren't having transferred onto me. So I was always very, very ambitious, but did not have any clarity, yeah, on how to use this ambition, any clear goals that this ambitious ambition could be used for, and yeah, that's why basically the goals I set to myself in school and also regard of academic goals that I set were super basic. So I did not aim for top grades. This is what I'm meaning, and I did not have to the plan to attend a very good university. I was, as I said in the beginning, planning to join some random remote university in Hamburg, and that's it. Because no one was challenging that. Everybody was doing something like very kind of basic, and that's why I wasn't challenging that at all. And what happens when you join a very good university is that the environment is different. The people are very driven and set high goals for themselves, yeah, and that transfers onto you. This doesn't mean that you start to copy others. It rather means that you start to think bigger, yeah. For example, when I was graduating high school, I wasn't even imagining that I might set the goal for myself to join a leading strategy consulting firm. Yeah, what happens is that you raise your standards towards yourself because everybody is aiming for top grades. You are starting to aim for them as well. Yeah, so the social default starts actually to work in your favor. Yeah, and I think this is extremely helpful if you are ambitious because then you start to use your ambition towards actually real results, towards actually real outcomes, and this is why I recommend for someone ambitious to join a very good university. Yeah, now another point is the door to people. Yeah, a very good university opens up opportunities to do internships, for example, in interesting fields, and these internships can help you join companies with successful employees, for example, or inspiring CEOs or scientists or founders. Yeah, and this gives you access to people, yeah, you otherwise would not meet or receive advice from. So as I said in the beginning, I had lunch with the CEO of Renew, whose company raised over or around 600 million euros in capital, and by this at this point I think I was 22 actually. 23. I just turned 23, I think, at this point in time. And usually when you are in your early 20s, you don't have access to people like that, and you don't go on lunches with people like that. This is why I'm mentioning that, because my university basically opened up the door, because I got the internship because of my university. Yeah. I also received advice from a young tech CEO in another internship I did, who was on an impressive path himself, is a very impressive person himself, and who is on a trajectory to become a very successful entrepreneur. Also, super unique experiences. Door was opened by my uni, and after university event, as I said, I had dinner with the CEO of Emma, together with other people, but still I was sitting like next to him, and asked him questions, and his company made around 1 billion in revenue in 1 year. And again, those are experiences that are super unique, and usually in your early 20s, you don't get access to these kinds of people, which is why I'm talking about that. And actually, another unique experience was when I participated in a huge startup conference or entrepreneurship conference in Switzerland, and afterwards, by coincidence, I got the opportunity to go on a special party with two very famous entrepreneurs in Germany who are very famous to the young generation. This was a super exciting experience and very unique. And again, I was participating in this conference just because a delegation of my uni went there, and yeah, this is why yeah, the doors to those entrepreneurs, the door was opened by the uni in the end. And yeah, what is also an important point is that interesting companies and entrepreneurs may also come directly to your university, yeah, because they often want to recruit driven and promising people from strong institutions, and thus you even profit in that way from the university, yeah. And one reason why I'm telling you that is because if I would have known that, I would have been motivated to work much harder in school than I was, because I did not even know that the reasoning why it makes sense to work hard in school. And one of the last points I want to touch on is the long-term perspective. I think it's also very interesting because ambitious people usually develop exponentially, yeah, like that, and they rarely stay stuck, yeah, just like on a flat line. Over time, they often end up doing cooler and cooler things, and this naturally creates an amazing network for you. So, for example, I just a brief example I give you is in school. I became friends with guys who were doing online marketing, and today they're having a software company which makes around 1 million in annual recurring revenue. And sometimes I ask them for advice in regard of the online world, about in regard of my content or other advice. And as you can imagine, this advice is extremely valuable. And back then, I of course did not know where exactly they would end up, but I could see that they were on a strong trajectory. So, what does it mean, a strong trajectory? It means being on the way towards a very interesting or cool life. Yeah. And I knew it would be valuable to be connected to people like that. And the interesting thing is that at the very good university, many people are on a very strong trajectory, and many of them are already quite inspiring or will develop into very inspiring people over time. And this is also something I mentioned in my life setup course for teenagers, that you should connect yourself with kind people who are on a very good trajectory, yeah, because this creates a strong network for yourself. And if you're interested in me talking about the transformation from an ambitious teenager without the direction, yeah, to someone with clear career goals, and you want help with that transformation, check out the first link in the description below. We'll talk about how to use your time in school in a way that you basically create a launch pad for yourself for opportunities like attending a top university, studying abroad, and other universities that other opportunities that you might find very cool for your future self. So check out the first link in the description. What I was saying before, or what I wanted to add, is that of course it doesn't mean that you should become this kind of guy who just wants to profit from everybody and doesn't contribute. Actually, it should be quite the opposite. You should always try to contribute and become the best version of yourself, but don't shy away to connect to people on a good life trajectory, older than you, younger than you, however, because they can benefit from you, and you might benefit from them. And it's not even about benefit. I mean, of course, it would be awesome to benefit, but usually these people are quite cool. That's why I'm saying kind people who are on a good life trajectory, and thus it's really nice to be friends with them, honestly. And yeah, the last point in this regard that I want to make is that usually people on a good life trajectory, especially when they get older, they usually have a strong network themselves. So, if for example you ask them for help and they can't help you, they might know someone who can help you. Yeah, because of their strong network, they are kind of super connectors. Yeah, they know many people, and that's why it's so cool to be connected to them, because they might refer you to somebody, or they might introduce you to somebody who has better answers, or who can help you with your problem, and you can benefit basically your uh, from your direct network and from your indirect network in a way. This is why I really recommend to do that. And the last point I want to speak about before we'll, we'll wrap up this video is the point of experiences. Yeah, because a top university provides you with quite unique experiences that you likely won't have somewhere else. Yeah, and usually there are, on the one hand, events that your university creates for the members of the university, but it also opens up doors to events of other institutions, and you get to know about these events because you are at this very good university. Yeah. So my university, for example, organized the Q Summit, which is Germany's largest startup and entrepreneurship conference that is organized by students with around 1,500 participants. And we, as a university delegation, also took part in the Start Summit in Switzerland, which is one of Europe's largest entrepreneurship conferences, organized by students with around 7,000 participants. Yeah, and to both these events, very interesting founders are coming, very interesting investors, generally interesting, exciting people, and from what I know, like most of my other friends who weren't at a very good university didn't participate in events like that. And I would say the reason was because they did not even know about these events. Because, for example, about the Start Summit, my university initiative, where I was part in, that was an entrepreneurship initiative, told us that this would happen and organized a way for us to join as a delegation. Yeah. And if they wouldn't have told us about that, we wouldn't have joined. And I mean, of course, it wasn't my university directly who gave us the information, but what I'm saying is that usually a good university is a magnet for cool opportunities. For example, like this cool initiative that was also organizing the Q Summit at our university, and thus this cool opportunity of basically being part of this initiative created another cool opportunity that this initiative was telling us about cool events. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like a good university is like a magnet for cool things, and yeah, likely I would have heard about this event about the Start Summit if I would have been like at a random university somewhere. Yeah, and another thing is that I would say that a very good university also wants to create a very appealing environment for the students. For example, I studied in Mannheim, which is like a quite small city in Germany, but with this very good university for business and economics. And there we had two universities. One, the University of Mannheim, and then another like university, but which was rather like normal. And my university was a castle. Yeah, it was a castle with yards, and the library was inside the castle. Yeah, sometimes you were sitting at the window, like at one of the top floors of the castle. You were looking down on the main yard. You really felt kind of like a king, or like a like I don't know, part of like a royal family. I mean, of course, I'm meaning because were like really in an environment where like royals beforehand were living. Yeah. and the main point is that the libraries were super beautiful. They were very clean, nicely designed. You had these beautiful views. You had many libraries, yeah, and many students from other universities of the city were coming to our library, yeah, to study. And the other university I was mentioning before, also in the same city, it was very, very ugly. Really, it was so ugly. And this is what I'm saying, that a very good university also tries to create a appealing environment. And I would argue, for example, if you look like in America, the very good universities like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, I'm sure that the campuses are amazing. I'm sure that they are. And it's not to say that like normal universities can't have appealing campuses. Likely, they are uh, good ones that do have those, but I would say that many have not. And this is the main thing, that I would say that very good ones are trying to provide this for their students. Yeah. And another thing in regard of that is that my university, for example, organized each Thursday parties at one of the courtyards um, of the university. So there was a dedicated yard where each Thursday there were open air parties. And this was also such a unique and nice experience that we were provided with. Um, yeah, and this is what I'm saying. Like, cool universities are magnets for cool experiences and opportunities. And I remember the craziest parties were in summer when everybody was finished with the exams, everybody would gather on a field next to the university and then go together to those parties. Those were very cool and exciting experiences. And other exciting experiences were that, for example, we had founder talks. Yeah. So once or twice per month, founders, yeah, of successful ventures would come to our university and give talks, yeah, and you could speak to them afterwards, for example, ask some questions. This was very exciting too. And our university also supported us to go abroad a lot, so we were actually forced. My fifth semester was a semester abroad. Everybody of my year had to leave and go on a semester abroad, and this was so exciting. Yeah, I for example went to south of France, and it was one of the coolest experiences in my life, and I made friends for life there. And recently I was part of an event for students, and I asked those guys who were still in uni. I asked them, like, did you already go abroad, or do you plan to go abroad? And they said no, no, they didn't. Or yeah, they thought maybe they will, but right now it's already kind of complicated to arrange that. Maybe they'll still do it, but they're not sure. And I was like in my head, damn, it's so sad, because it's such an incredible experience. And our university really forced us to do that. And we had a huge partnership network of cool universities around the globe where you could go to. And this is something so special, because I think first, we received a lot of help in regard of the whole process of organizing this semester abroad. And other universities, likely you would have to organize that for yourself, and likely the network of partner universities would be way smaller, and also likely the universities wouldn't be that good. For example, my university was, I think, one of the leading grande école, yeah, business schools. And grande école is like a French term for a very good university in France. Yeah, so I was profiting basically also of that. And this is why I'm saying that I think most of the other people don't go abroad, first because of the social default, because everybody else doesn't go, they also don't go. And second, because it's way more effort to organize that compared to the effort we had to put in, because our university forced us to do that. It was mandatory, and they basically made the process very structured and clear. And I really appreciated that, and this was such an amazing experience. So, last point here is that there were also special programs that we were able to apply to. For example, a double degree with China's second best university, which is one of the best universities for business in China, and second best for business in China, and one of the best business universities in the world. Yeah, and there was also a program where students could study in 4 countries: Brazil, Singapore, United States, and Germany. And in all those countries at very, very good universities. And I think those kinds of programs are super unique and aren't offered at like normal standard universities. This is my hypothesis. Yeah, I think that those are rather offered in very good institutions, and especially like with such partners. Yeah, with very strong partners in China or in Brazil or Singapore. I think this is like a very unique thing for very good universities. And yeah, this is why I'm telling you that, so you have really much more motivation to work harder in school, to open up opportunities like that. And this is also the main subject of my live setup course, where I speak about career opportunities, which you likely haven't heard about yet. Um, Opportunities to combine careers that you haven't thought could be combined. So you have um, much more interesting knowledge that you gather, but also much more interesting work experiences than you thought that you could have. Yeah, because what I try to talk with you about is thinking outside the box in regard of career planning. And I wish I would have known that, because this would have made me so much more motivated in high school to perform better and to open up opportunities like that. I was fortunate to get admitted to this university, but it was just, I would say, fortune, because my peers were having much better grades, and thus it was also much more difficult to study there for me. So I hope that you could learn a lot in this video. Go watch the video on avoiding my main regret about high school, talking about many interesting things there. If you're interested in the live setup operating system, where we go in detail about career planning, we go in detail about using school as a launchpad, click the first link in the description, and I'm excited to welcome you there. Goodbye.